שבת, פרק א', משנה ב'.
זה כבר יותר קל, מוישי.
Now, the reason why we're learning this Mishnah has got nothing to do with Shabbat. No connection to Shabbat whatsoever. But the reason why we're learning this Mishnah, because it is similar to the next Mishnah that has to do with Shabbat. So that's what we're learning it. The same concept. So we will start. Agav Mishnah Ba'a, Mishnah Gimel, because of the next Mishnah, which is going to be Mishnah Gimel, Hadana bedvarim she'en la'asotam be'erev Shabbat. In the next Mishnah, we're going to discuss things that we're not allowed to do on Friday evening, samuch lechashecha, when it's close to darkness. מקדימה משנתנו ללמד דברים שאין לעשותם סמוך לתפילת המנחה, אפילו בימות החול. We're going to learn things that we're not allowed to do close to mincha, even in a regular day. Nothing to do with Friday night. Every day. You're not supposed to do it before mincha, close to mincha. וכבר ביארנו, we actually learned this when we learned brachot, if you remember. שזמן תפילת המנחה מתשע שעות ומחצה. We already learned that the time to daven mincha is 9.5 hours in the day. And as you remember, we divide the day into 12 hours. So it depends. In the winters, every hour is going to be about 50 minutes. And in the summer, every hour can be 1 hour and 10 minutes. Yeah? So it goes according to the amount of daylight. That's how we divide it. So we're talking, when you say 9.5 hours, we mean 9.5 hours of those times. So it might be in the winter the short hours, in the summer they're going to be long hours. כלומר, שעות זמניות, which means times according to the year. שמרחקים את היום ל-12 חלקים שווים, we divide the day into 12 equal parts, וכל חלק נקרא שעה זמנית, and every part is called an hour. וזוהי הנקראת מנחה קטנה. So 9.5 hours is called מנחה קטנה. The concept מנחה קטנה is 9.5 hours in the day, 9.5 hours of sunlight. אך משש שעות ומחצה, but from 6.5 hours, which is ממחצית השעה אחרי הצהריים, from half an hour after noon, מתחיל זמן מנחה גדולה. This is the time for מנחה גדולה. This is the time we're allowed to daven mincha, by the way. ודנה הגמרא, the earliest time we're allowed to daven mincha. ודנה הגמרא בעניין המנחה של משנתנו, and the Gemara is discussing mincha in our Mishnah, אם הכוונה היא למנחה גדולה או למנחה קטנה. Some say we're talking about מנחה גדולה, some say we're talking about מנחה קטנה. It's not important, one of them. Let's go in the מחמר, even מנחה קטנה. מסקנת רוב המפרשים היא שכוונת המשנה אפילו למנחה גדולה. Most commentaries learn that we're talking about even mincha gdola, which means 6.5 hours. So today, let's call it today, around 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. Today maybe even a little bit less than 1 o'clock, maybe around 12:40. This is going to apply. The laws of this Mishnah are going to apply. Let's see what are the laws. So from around 12:30, from around 12:40, somewhere around there, during the day, לא ישב אדם לפני הספר. One is not allowed to go take a haircut.
Well, there is no meaning when you said it's good for mincha gdola too, because you still have 5 hours to do it, to make it, so you're going to lose it. So I don't understand
That's what it says.
Understand?
Yeah. לא ישב אדם לפני הספר להסתפר. A person is not going to sit in front of the barber to take a haircut. סמוך למנחה, when it's 12:40. It comes to 12:40, you want to take a haircut, you can't go take a haircut. What do you have to do? Daven mincha, and then go take a haircut. That's what you have to do. היינו, מנחה גדולה שזמנה משש שעות ומחצה. This is מנחה גדולה, that the time is 6.5 hours. כמו שביארנו לעיל, like we explained above, בהקדמה למשנתנו, in the introduction to our Mishnah. וסמוך למנחה, and close to mincha, הוא כחצי שעה לפני זמנה. It is even half an hour before its time. So not 12:40, like I said. Even 12:10, they tell you don't start. Don't start take a haircut. Wait, daven mincha, and then go take a haircut. לפי זמננו בשש שעות בחצי היום. עד שיתפלל. Until you're going to daven. תפילת מנחה. The davening of mincha. The reason, this is the question that Ari is asking, what's the reason for it? So הטעם מבואר בגמרא, the reason is explained in the Gemara, גזרה, this is a decree, שמא יישבר מכשיר התספורת אחר שהתחיל להסתפר, maybe the scissors are going to break after one begins the haircut, ועד שיתוקן יעבור זמן התפילה. And it takes a long time to repair it. In those times, the misparayim would be broken. You will have to go to the blacksmith. The blacksmith has a big line of people. Until he'll be able to repair it, will take like 3-4 hours. And then by that time, you're sitting in the zeu on the chair over there. You're not going to be, you have only half a hair. You're embarrassed to go to shul. You're not going to daven mincha. That's what they're worried about. That's what the Gemara says. Same idea. לא ייכנס אדם למרחץ. A person should not go to the merchatz. The merchatz means, today, Moshe knows it, in Russia they have banyas. Yeah? And the process in a banya in America, everybody thinks it's 2 minutes. No, you go to the banya, it takes 2-3 hours. It's a long process. Yeah, it's like... Yeah. It's like it takes a long process, and also after that, how do you feel? You take a nap afterwards. Yeah, you're completely... Yeah, it's not a shower. לא ייכנס אדם למרחץ, סמוך למנחה, close to mincha, עד שיתפלל, until he's going to daven, same idea. Why? גזר השם יתעלף ויבטל מן התפילה. He's going to fall asleep over there, he's going to feel weak, take a nap, and by the time he's finished the nap, it's already after mincha. ולא לברוסקי. Nor should he go into the bruski. What's a bruski? לא ייכנס אדם לבורסקי. A person should not enter a bruski. היינו למקום עיבוד אורות. It is a place where you tan hides. והוא הדין לכל עסק גדול. And this is not just the bruski. All these rules show you this is places where it takes a long time for the process. Kind of jobs that takes a long time. גזרה, this is a decree. שמא ימצא קלקול במלאכה. You're going to go into a business, into the tannery. You're going to see, hey, they salted the hides in the wrong manner. They used the wrong salt, or they put too much salt. Now you have to wash off the salt from all the hides. That's going to take some time. Yeah? ויתחיל להתעסק בה, you're going to become busy in it. You've got 100 hides to tan. It's going to take you like 4 or 5 hours. וימשך במלאכתו עד שיעבור זמן התפילה. And you're going to continue the work until the time for davening has passed. ויש מפרשים שמא יימצא קלקול באורות. And there are those who say, even if it doesn't take a long time, just the fact that he's going to find some damage in the hides, ויצטער, and then he's going to be upset. And just because he's upset, ומתוך טרדת שערו לא יוכל להתפלל. Because he's so upset, he's going to forget about davening, he's going to forget about everything. All he cares about, he just lost $20,000 because the stupid worker put too much salt and the hides are gone. So you shouldn't even start from the forehand.
אבל הוא פה מנחה, מדברים פה לפני שבת רק.
לא, בגלל זה אמרתי בהתחלה, every מנחה, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
לא, זה מנחה גדולה, היינו אחרי 12.
Yeah, most commentaries even say after 12:30.
לא, נראה לי, אבל מה שהם אומרים, אני רואה.
By the way, this is halacha today also.
כן?
Yeah.
מה, אסור ללכת להסתפר אצל ספר 12?
So today you might get a leeway for sapar, but that's the only thing you're going to get a leeway.
ואם הוא ילך למרחץ,
הוא
יתעלף?
Not allowed to.
אז 4 שעות יש לו.
He's not allowed to. No, not אם ילך. He's not allowed to go. He has to daven mincha and then go.
אבל זה לא, it doesn't make sense.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense? That's the law.
Because if you're talking about mincha gdola, that it's the end of mincha ktana, that's the end of the day, you have 10 minutes, you have half an hour before, it can happen to you. But if you have still 5 hours until you can still make the mincha, it doesn't make logical sense to me.
Does it sometimes, how long do you stay in Banya usually?
3 שעות מינימום.
3 שעות, you still have 2 hours.
And sometimes you fall asleep after the Banya?
שם גם הם שותים בירה, וודקה.
See, there you go. That's what it is.
בניה, אני אלך לפה בניה, לא שותים, לא יודע, אני לא יודע מה זה בכלל.
But we don't talk about you, we talk people. It takes a long time. People fall asleep. That's what it says. And by the way, this is an easy one, the Banya. The Banya is obvious. But a type of job that takes a long time, for example, there's many jobs. For example, I'll give you an example. For you, maybe it doesn't take a long time to cut the tree. This guy has cut the tree in 2 hours, right? Or 1.5 hours. Yeah, but some
Who
trees...
knows? It could take 5 hours.
Oh, so
Okay,
it tells
I
you,
don't know.
so for those kinds of jobs where you don't know, for those kinds of jobs where you don't know how long it takes, it says you're not allowed even to start the job before you daven mincha.
Then I understand.
It's the same idea in all of them. So you have to remember the barber in that time was that kind of job. That many times the scissors broke and they will go to the blacksmith. And the blacksmith would have a long line maybe, and then you get
Guys
stuck.
gonna wait for
Yeah.
5
So
hours.
today the barber, that's why I say today's barber you might get a leeway. Because if his machine break, he's got another machine right next to it. So that's a leeway. But all the other jobs, you're not going to get a leeway. And another thing, not even to eat. Velo le'echol. Now when we're talking about a meal, we're talking about a feast. You have like for example, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a big thing. ולא יתחיל לאכול, but he says, even סעודה קטנה סמוך למנחה, because once we give you to eat a small meal, you're going to take and say, I'm going to also eat a big meal. That's right. שמא יימשך בסעודה וישכח להתפלל. In other words, the mitzvah is here, do the mitzvah, so you won't forget it. ולא לדין, and also not for judgment. ולא ישבו דיינים לדון סמוך למנחה. The dayanim are not going to sit next to mincha. אפילו לאחר שכבר נשמעו טענות בעלי הדין. So this is also in not, now of course it makes sense that they're discussing the din. But let's say they're not discussing the din. They already discussed the din. They know. And they say, okay, in the morning they finished at 11 o'clock. They said, we're going to come back after lunch. Everybody comes back after lunch. And this is just for the judgment. Even just for the judgment, which takes 2 minutes. Doesn't take 10 hours judgment. It takes guilty or not guilty. Well, how long is it going to take? Why not over here? אפילו לאחר שכבר נשמעו טענות ואין להם אלא להוציא פסק דין, and the only thing they have to do is to say guilty or not guilty. Why? שמא ימצאו טעם לסתור את הדין, because just before the guy says guilty or not guilty, he's going to think again, and then he's going to say, oh, let me think it again, and then he says, oh, what did the guy say again? And they're going to ask the guy again, and then it's going to take some more time. את הדין ויתרדו ויבטלו את התפילה. And they're going to not do the davening. Now, in all the things that we discussed up to now, in all the things that it says, do not begin, do not begin, do not begin, the question is, what happens if you begin? What happens if you begin? Do you have to stop? Let's say, ואם התחילו בדברים אלו. So this is like what Arya says, what am I going to worry about? It's 6 hours from now. So if I started, now do I have to stop my haircut in the middle? Do I have to do the thing to stop the din in the middle? So it says, no, you're probably going to be fine. That's the Gemara says. You're probably going to be fine, so you don't have to stop in the middle. So that's what your question was. But you're probably going to be fine. So it says, yeah, right, you are probably going to be fine. We're not talking about the times you're going to be fine. We're going to talking about the one time you're not going to be fine. That's what we're worried about. ואם התחילו, and if they began, בדברים אלו, in these manners, אין מפסיקים, אין חייבים להפסיק, you are not obligated to stop from that particular job, אפילו סמוך למנחה קטנה. We're not talking about mincha gdola, even close to mincha ktana, you don't have to worry about it. Even according to after 9.5 hours, don't worry about it. Once you started, you started. Ela gomrim, but first of all, finish the job.
So gomrim means he doesn't do mincha?
No, gomrim means finish the job, and then
And what if it's...
Then you have to stop.
Oh.
Of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I understand. You have to stop.
Of course you have to do.
Run over the mincha.
Yeah. Ela gomrim, we're worried that you're not going to stop because you're going to forget. That's the worry. Ela gomrim, but you finish it. ואחר כך מתפללים, and afterward you daven. Now the question is, you're going to the barber, and it's 12:40, right? It says, when did you start taking the haircut?
When you take out.
When did you start taking the haircut? In other words, you're sitting in line in the barber, waiting for your turn. Are you supposed to daven mincha before now? It's 12:40, or did you start already taking a haircut? Is it called already you started taking a haircut?
You're supposed to take a mincha, to do mincha.
Because why?
Because you're going to miss it maybe. And it's
You
going
don't
to
start.
break, it's going to go, and you have to go to the locksmith.
Yeah, but I already started. But I already.
Or if you started the haircut.
So the question is, when did you start? When you're waiting in line in the barber, is it a start?
When you take out the kippah.
So he says. So the question is, when is the start of all these things?
Oh,
That's what the question
that's
is.
the question.
That's the question. When did we start?
What is the starting?
That's right.
What
In other words, when can you say, I already started, don't worry about it?
Yeah, I see.
When can you say that? Okay.
I would say when you start to...
So it says, let's see. בגמרא מבואר, in the Gemara it explains, שהתחלת תספורת, that the beginning of the haircut, how do you know when is it when? משיניחו מעופרת של ספרים על ברכיו. When he's going to put that blanket,
Oh,
that's right. That thing when you put it on your knees. I have mincha, that's right. In other words, you're not allowed to put it on. If you remember, it's 12:40, you're not allowed to put it on. That's if you remember after it's on you, oh, it's okay, continue. That's the question. שספרי על ברכיו. והתחלת מרחץ, and when did you start going into the banya, going into the washing? משפשות הבגד הסמוך לבשרו. It's not when you take your coat off or you take your shirt off. When you take your underpants on, the closest clothing to your skin, your undergarments. והתחלת הבורסקי, in the beginning of the hiding, מכשיקשור בגד בין כתפיו כדרך שההמונים עושים. When you're going to wear the instruments of the trade, they had a special coat they would put or whatever it is. That's right. Every job you have special tools. If you're a mechanic, you put your belt on. Whatever it is. והתחלת האכילה, and the beginning of the meal, משעיטול ידיו. When you wash your hands. And libnei Bavel, and those who are in Bavel, they had a different custom. The beginning was in a different way. Mishiyatir chaguro shehu samuch lenetilat yadayim. When he's going to open up the belt, he's getting ready for the meal, he's opening up the belt so he can...
Wow, you can feel it.
That's the way they used to do it.
That's what they teach us.
That's the custom of the place. That's how you know you started the meal.
custom.
ואם היו יושבים, משיתחילו בעלי הדין לטעון. And if they were already sitting, right? So the question is, the court has just concerned, everybody is sitting, and the two witnesses come in, and the guy sees it's 12:45. The main judge sees it's 12:45, says, I don't want to hear you guys. We're all going to daven mincha, and then we're going to come back. But if he asked a question, and the guy already answered, that's it. I don't care, 12:45, says, just keep an eye on the watch now. When we finish, we'll take care of mincha. Yeah? כן מבואר, שמה ששנינו במשנתנו, also it explains that what we already said in the Mishnah, שאם התחילו אין מפסיקים, that if they started you don't stop, היינו דווקא כשיש עוד שהות ביום לגמור קודם שיבוא זמן תפילה. Obviously it is when there's still enough time in the day before the time of davening. אבל אם אין שהות ביום צריכה להפסיק. But of course, if there's no more time, doesn't matter which time, they have to stop whatever they're doing and daven mincha. Finish that subject, beginning a new subject. מפסיקים לקרות קריאת שמע ואין מפסיקים לתפילה. We stop for קריאת שמע, but we don't stop for 18, for davening. Let's understand what it means. בגמרא מבואר, in the Gemara it explains, שזוהי הלכה אחרת. This is a different halacha. והיינו, up to here, the reason why they have to stop from doing whatever they're doing is because they're not doing a mitzvah. They're doing something else. They're doing something which is not a commandment. What happens if you're doing a commandment that's as important as davening? For example, what mitzvah is as important as davening? Learning Torah. So it says learning Torah is as important as davening. So the question is, if you have a group of sages and they're learning Torah, and it's time to say Shema, do they have to stop? Next question, if there's a sage is learning Torah, and then it's time for davening, 18, do they have to stop? So over here it tells you, if it comes to learning Torah is more, saying Shema is more important than learning Torah. But davening is not more important than learn Torah. They should continue to learn Torah and don't worry about davening. That's what it says. Okay. בגמרא מבואר, in the Gemara it explains, שזוהי הלכה אחרת. This is another law, והיינו, which means, שתלמידי חכמים העוסקים בתורה, sages who are busy in Torah, מפסיקים תורתם לקריאת שמע, they stop learning Torah, this important mitzvah, to read the Shema. לפי, what's so special about Shema? Why is Shema more strict than davening? לפי שזמנה מן התורה, because it's a commandment from the Torah. In the Torah itself, it says that you have to daven the Shema. And it says, we learned it already in Masechet Brachot, בשוך בך ובקומך. It says there's 2 times for it, when you get up and when you go to sleep. ומכל שכן, and how much more so, שכל אלו שנמנו לעיל, that all the other things that we mentioned above, that's not learning Torah. Of course you have to stop. מפסיקים מעשיהם לקריאת שמע. They stop for reading the Shema. But when it comes to learning Torah, it outtrumps davening. אבל אין תלמידי חכמים, but the תלמידי חכמים, the sages, don't have to stop. להפסיק תורתם לתפילת 18. They don't have to stop learning Torah to daven 18. Why? שאין לה זמן קבוע מן התורה. Because there's not an established time to daven 18 from the Torah. The Torah doesn't tell you when to daven 18. It tells you when you need something from God, daven to God. Doesn't tell you when. ויש סוברים, and also another reason, לפי שתפילה בכלל אינה אלא מדברי סופרים. It says the whole idea of davening, of prayer, that's everything is from the rabbis. The whole prayer is from the rabbis. all the 18. בגמרא אמרו, in the Gemara says, don't think that you can follow this advice of the sages. You can't. Why? לא שנו שאין מפסיקים לתפילה. They didn't say that you don't stop for davening. Who doesn't stop for davening? Somebody who learns Torah. What do you mean somebody who learns Torah? Somebody who actually learns. Yeah, who doesn't stop from learning. For him, he's completely engrossed in it. אלא כגון רבי שמעון בן יוחאי. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai doesn't stop. וחבריו, anybody who's in his level, doesn't stop. What kind of people don't stop? Those people שתורתן אומנותן, that their Torah is everything for them. It says, and the reason why they don't stop is because they're doing something more important than davening. What are they doing? Learning Torah. What about when I learn Torah? Isn't that more important than davening? It says it is, if I learn Torah. The problem is that 100, let's say every 2 seconds when I'm learning Torah, I think about something else. Or I'm wasting my time, or I'm talking to the guy about politics, or I'm doing something else, right? So if I take my time off to think about something else, I might as well take my time off to go and daven 18. A person who doesn't take his mind off even for 1 second of his Torah, he is allowed to, but not somebody like us. And us especially, that we take our time not only not to learn Torah, we take our time even to do our business. אבל כגון אנו מפסיקים לקריאת שמע לתפילה, הואיל ואנו מפסיקים תורתנו לאמונתנו, because we stop Torah for our work. It says, in other words, in your life, what's more important, business or Torah? Business is more important in our life, because we stop Torah and we do our business. So obviously we're going to stop Torah. How much more so to daven? It makes sense. For him, he doesn't stop Torah for business. He doesn't stop Torah for anything. For him, it trumps davening, but not for us. כל שכן שנפסיק לתפילה. How much more so we're going to stop for tefillah. Questions?
מתי קוראים שמע?
We did.
עד עלות הבוקר, אז למה הוא צריך להפסיק?
לא הבנת את השאלה. Again, great.
כתוב, עד מתי קוראים שמע. כלומר, שיש לו זמן עד עלות הבוקר.
That's for Ma'ariv. Over here we're talking about the Shachris.
שחרית.